So yeah, they call it not Hoth for the whole time. Is it Hoth?
Hoth.
God damn it. Having a rough time today, guys.
It's okay.
Welcome to Recapping Romantasy, hot takes on hot literature. Who are we?
We are me, Maura.
I am Tabitha.
And I'm Emma. Recapping Romantasy contains mature content from fairy smut to dragon rider torture to monster genitalia. Be sure to check the episode notes for content warnings and the link to the transcript. So if you haven't heard of Planet Barbarians, then you obviously weren't on TikTok during the pandemic. I would argue that Planet Barbarians was one of the first books to kind of feel the effects of booktok, because although IPB 1 was published in 2015, it really popped off in the first half of 2021. It's not really a surprise as to why it became popular. We were all still in the trenches of COVID and people just wanted to escape reality. I mean, I did. The author Ruby Dixon explains that she always read escapist happy fiction, so that's what she wanted to write, period.
It's a wild claim considering the content of this book.
Yeah, I know. We'll talk about it. The first one starts a little rough, and she does mention that in the trigger warning for the book. I think she did a pretty good job at it if you kind of don't pay attention to the beginning of the first book. Besides a couple dark moments in the beginning, they're mostly happy ever after, Tarzan meets Jane retellings with, bizarre monster genitalia. She could have had the human characters discuss the ramifications of some of the plot points in the first book, but why do that when your readers are already inundated with the hottest 50 takes of every event in real time?
That's fair.
Yeah. So when I first read them, that's all I wanted. I wanted to escape reality. I didn't want to listen to the news about COVID and the numbers about COVID. So, I mean, you could argue that's why people read, is to escape reality. Mm-hmm. So she got me hooked. I read the first 4 and then I had to stop because the 5th one was about Christmas. And I'm we're already in this other world. Yeah. We don't need to talk about Christmas.
No, we really don't. That's
No.
not it. I mean, I'll talk about the confusion for literally everybody there. How do you explain Christmas to a bunch of blue aliens?
She has a whole book about it. She
Oh
actually
my
has
God.
4 Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Yeah.
20 books in this series.
Okay.
Yeah, girl, you're on another planet with aliens. Free yourself of the yoke of Christmas.
Well, I think maybe I read something somewhere or started reading it. I don't remember, or I just read the blurb. But I think the idea was oh, we're sad that we're stuck in this other planet. We miss the joy of Christmas. So escaping the reality on the planet while we're escaping reality on this planet. Let's talk about the joy of Christmas.
That tracks, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll talk about that later with this book, but we got to escape the reality of the escapist reality that we find ourselves in.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a Kindle Unlimited book, a series really. So it has one of those Kindle Unlimited covers.
By which she means this is originally a self-published book.
Yeah.
right?
It is self-published. Sorry. No hate to Kindle Unlimited. There's some great books out there. I mean, I read 4 out of 20 of these, so I obviously think they're pretty enjoyable. But the OG cover is a little ridiculous. It's a half-naked man painted blue, I don't know, hugging this woman who's in the throes of passion.
He's putting her face, his face
it's a
right
motorboat.
in her.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
I mean, she doesn't really look like she would have a lot of boobs, though. She looks really skinny, maybe malnourished. But and then they had a special edition cover where it's more the cartoon art. Yeah.
So that's the Berkeley cover. Mm-hmm. Berkeley picked up Ruby Dixon when she got big on TikTok and basically said, "We will put your books in Target with a new cover."
Yeah, I don't like the new cover. I mean, they're both
It's
not
fine.
They're fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's just a totally different. I guess it's a different. They're going for something different.
Yeah, I feel the OG cover is kind of the traditional Fabio type stuff from.
I mean, the
Bridgerton
original
books.
Cover definitely lets you know it's erotica, and the second one is more ambiguous about it.
Yeah, the second one could be
could be just an adventure.
Sci-fi. Yeah, sci-fi adventure.
Oh, speaking of, this is technically a sci-fi book, but
Sure.
I'm going to argue that these aliens are technically monsters, and this is a monster romance, which then categorizes it as fantasy.
Listen, the whole
You don't have to convince me.
No. The whole genre, SSF, science fiction, fantasy, or SFF, is they're pushing sci-fi into fantasy anyway. As a publishing term, and I hate it, but hey, that means we can do this.
That's true, and I forced everyone to read it, so we have to talk about it. So when the book starts, there's a short trigger warning that I didn't remember reading back in 2020, and then it kind of glosses over some of the things that happens. So apologies to Tabitha for tricking her on accident into reading this. We thought that maybe it got changed, but...
Yeah, so the original story of this is that I and Emma read the self-published version, which includes a graphic gang rape scene.
Yeah.
Alien on human. And from my understanding, when IPB was picked up by Berkley, Berkley did the classic thing that all big publishers do with booktok books, is that they do little to no editing and then slap a new cover on it and then get it in stores as fast as humanly possible because they have to turn and burn this shit to capitalize on the popularity. But from what I understand is that they asked Ruby Dixon to change one thing, which was the gang rape scene at the beginning. And the scene was absolutely not needed. It was gross and disturbing. And like the way that the girl is treated afterward is just awful and super problematic. And it's one of the reasons I couldn't really term this escapist, since there's some weird shit happening around this completely unneeded event that I think they completely took out of the published version by Berkley.
Yeah, I didn't Google to see if they did for sure.
Yeah, me neither.
Tabitha listened to the audiobook, which is apparently the
whatever version I listened to, it was in there.
Yeah, I think the audiobook is also the self-published version, which includes that gang rape scene. So FYI, everybody, if that's not your thing, don't read that one.
Yeah. Skip ahead. I don't know, like between 5 and 10 minutes.
So let's get into the book. So chapter 1, it switches between Georgie, who's our main character, and then the alien's point of view, who's Vectal. I probably won't mention it every time we switch because, I don't know, just leaving it out. We'll see how it flows. So, chapter 1. On a random Tuesday in Orlando, Florida, Georgie gets abducted by little green alien men. Picture the blow-up green aliens that you win from carnival games.
Yeah, I just inserted the little green men from X-Files here, which were really gray, but whatever.
She wakes up in a cage on a spaceship with a group of girls who have also been captured. One of the girls, Liz, explains what's going on. Everyone who has been captured is 22, single, healthy, but not pregnant. Actually, one girl was 2 months along, but they vacuumed it out of her like it was no big deal. Like, what a way to describe abortion.
I've actually heard pro-life people use the word vacuumed as a verb for abortion before as a shock factor. Yeah. I mean, it's not unlike what actually happens, but it was definitely used for shock factor.
Yeah, which, rereading this, I have this thought and feeling that, like, maybe Ruby Dixon is, like, weirdly Mormon or weirdly has, like, pro-life, everyone needs to get pregnant and, like, have kids.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but there's definitely some trad wife vibes that I talk about later.
Yeah, for sure. The one girl who's been on the ship for 2 weeks, her name's Kira, has a translator AirPod. Don't know why it's taken these aliens so long to abduct girls from America, but it's taken them like 2 weeks to do this. They've just been in orbit around the Earth, going through Hinge to pick people up, I guess. So Liz continues to explain that the aliens are basically trafficking these girls. They probably only needed to get 6 because there are 6 girls in these weird, like, orange Fanta-filled tubes and they're sleeping. But then they got greedy and grabbed 10 more. So there's, like, about 20-ish girls on this ship. A new girl gets brought in and, like any other normal person, freaks out and starts screaming. This pisses off the guard aliens, which are called basketball heads by Georgie. Then the basketball heads strap the new girl to the table and gang rape her, which is the scene we don't like.
Yeah, I have to say, like, traditional publishing has made some really rough calls in, like, you know, their lifespan. But taking that out of this book was probably the very best call they've ever made in life. Because this was like a hard no for me. I was like, if I wasn't reading this for the pod, I would have put it down.
Yeah. I remember it being just kind of like alluded to in the reading. But when I reread it, I was like, oh, there's like a little more description than I thought there was.
Yeah, I had no idea that this was going to happen, and it killed the vibe for me. I had a hard time enjoying the rest of the book with this, like, threat lurking in the back.
Yeah.
It also prompted a sit-down meeting of the three of us to discuss if we have any hard no's in the books that we choose.
Yeah, finally. That was smart. We should have done
that. It only took, like, 6 books in. It's fine.
But it was smart for us to do that. So after that horrific event, Georgie comes up with a plan to fight back against their captors. So they decide to move forward with this plan after they start to hit turbulence due to engine issues. Maybe one of the ship's engines has sucked up some space birds or something and it stopped working.
Right, I love the whole engine issues thing because it's like, Georgie, how would you actually know this is an engine issue? Also, this is space. Like, you could just turn off the engines and coast the rest of the way. Right. Like, nothing is going to stop you because there's no friction in space. But whatever, I'm not, like, going to get too deep into, like, sci-fi at the sci-fi. But I also was like, doesn't it seem more like I was kind of thinking maybe something hit the spaceship? Wouldn't that be better?
The
like,
space birds.
Yeah, the space birds. Like, you
they
know,
have like a Sully moment.
things
where they
are
have to
flying around
land.
in space. Like maybe it was just like a little asteroid or something.
I've watched a lot of Star Trek. There's always engine issues.
That's because it's Star Trek.
That causes turbulence.
running out of dilithium crystals.
Yeah, right.
While they're having these engine issues, they, start their plan. So Georgie spits on the only guard and then tries to throw their shit bucket on him, but the other girls are too afraid to help. So right when things are supposed to go wrong for Georgie, everything goes really wrong for the girls as their pod is detached from the ship. Georgie gets the gun and beats the basketball alien guard to death. Georgie wakes up after they crash land. 2 girls didn't make it, and everyone else is somehow barely concussed.
Just looking back on all the events that occurred in this book, I am shocked that they didn't cannibalize those dead girls.
You know what? After the gang rape scene, I was totally waiting for cannibalism.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It would not have been a stretch.
Yeah, they didn't feed them at all.
Yeah, nothing. They had no food. So
I
they're
mean,
just
Exactly.
they
That was like
shit in a bucket.
I mean, that was like a major issue that there wasn't enough food for them.
Yeah, there's no food. There's
They're
shit
eating,
all over the
seaweed
walls.
bars
Two
or
bosses right
something.
there.
Yeah.
They've landed on some snow planet for a safe location so the green aliens can come pick them up later when their ship is fixed, according to Kira, who again can hear everything through her AirPod. Georgie decides to venture out of the pod to look for shelter, nice aliens, clothes, food, any of those things. They don't say exactly what they're looking for, and it doesn't totally make sense as to why she goes either.
I think that's like the only option. Right?
Yeah.
There's either stay on the ship
Yeah.
and die,
Mhm.
or wait for the aliens to come back, or get out and see what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I think wasn't there some hope that they might still be on Earth? Like they're like maybe we're still on
maybe,
Earth.
yeah.
And then she gets out and she like notices there's 2 moons or something. She's like,
Yes, yeah, there's
oh,
like
goddamn.
2 suns or something.
Yeah.
So she ends up going because she's their de facto leader because she came up with a plan on the ship. She describes the planet to the girls in the pod, and they decided to call it not Hoth. Hoth?
Hoth.
Hoth? I'm a fake Star Wars fan.
I know, man. Even I know that.
I know. I'm so disappointed.
I'm sorry. I like the prequels were the movies that like got me in it, which I know is a hot take.
Wow, that is amazing that you just said that out loud.
Yeah. Well, they like came out when I was younger.
It's fine. It's cool. It's totally fine. I keep reminding myself that you're a baby. It's all right.
Yeah. 16.
As someone who's only read 2 of these books, and to someone who's read 4,
They call it.
they call it not Hoth the entire time.
Yep, they call it
because
not Hoth
I'm just
the whole
like,
time.
doesn't it? I feel like they should call it something different, like New Buffalo.
Yeah, or like New Antarctica.
Or just
Yeah.
call it Hoth. Like,
Yeah.
it's an ice planet. It's in space.
Maybe it's like weirdly copywritten from Star Wars or something.
Yeah,
so
maybe.
adding the word "not" in front of it was.
I
Enough.
don't think you can copyright places though.
Oh, I don't know.
That's a question for a copyright lawyer.
Yeah.
Anyway, maybe not.
Anyone out there, let us know.
Yeah.
So on Georgie's hike, she finds water and alien monsters that will eat her. She's running away from one of these monsters when she gets caught in a hunting snare, with all the blood rushing to her head, and probably more so due to the fact that she's captured and malnourished, etc. She passes out. You would assume that this is the end of chapter 1, but these are not actually chapters. These are written in parts, and they're super long. There's like 6 parts to this whole book. Still in chapter 1, now we're switching to Vectel's POV, and he's confused that there's a new animal in his snare. The Kui, which, is it Kui? How do you say it?
Kui.
Kui?
That's how they pronounce it in the
Wow.
audiobook.
Okay, well, I might call it the Kui from now on. But I will try to do Kui. Okay, so the Kui.
I will say that in the audiobook, they switch back and forth between a male and a female narrator.
Do they?
And I feel like for such a dumb book, the male narrator was like really putting his whole dick in it.
Really?
Like he was
Good.
really trying.
Good for him.
Wow,
Good for
okay.
him.
As far as the pronunciation go, I think Kui would make more sense.
They call it a
because
cootie.
They call it a cootie.
I know, that's why I thought
Yes.
it was Kui, because they call it a cootie later.
Well, it's sort of like Kui.
Kui.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
fine. All right. So the Kui, which is this alien's inner being, starts purring at the weird animal in his trap, which makes this animal his mate. He's again confused, but not confused enough for someone who just like imprinted Jacob from Twilight style on an alien creature.
Yeah, that is concerning.
Yeah, he
Weird.
just was like, oh, bizarre. I guess my mate is this dog and I'm a human. Like, that's...
Yeah.
But I
Oh, my
guess
God, now-
this creature in my heart says so I will listen. Like, what a weird take.
I have such an image in my mind now. That I
Sorry.
can't-
Well, yeah, it really would be like seeing like a chimpanzee and being like, well, I guess this is how it's got to go down.
Yeah. It was so weird. So he takes this new creature and sprints to a nearby hunting cave. He decides that this creature must be a she since he's straight, I guess.
Yeah, like that's a perfect thought process. No notes, Vectel. That's fine.
He also discovers that this new creature has dull eyes, which means she must not have a
Quee,
thank you. We don't actually know what the quee is yet, but her eyes don't glow from within, which I guess is important. He then pulls off her clothes to check to see if she's wounded, but really he's just curious. He describes her body as smooth, soft, weak, and hairless, minus the hair on her head and the adorable patch between her legs.
Okay, adorable patch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
As his
Quee.
Thank you. Every time. As his quee continues to vibrate with the need to mate, he succumbs and starts to eat her out.
Okay, so the face I made at this point, I mean, and I'm not like, in any one of these points wherever there's sex in like a fantasy chapter, I'm like, there had best be eating out at some point, because like
we start with
love
it.
Interests eat out. That's all I have to say about
that's
this.
true.
But when it's like this, I'm just like, I this is what I did. I put the Kindle down and I went and I retired to my fainting couch, because I have one of those, and I had just like had to recuperate for a little while, and I'm like, I'm gonna get through this because Emma's making me do it, but by God, I have to rest.
Your spouse got your smelling salts and then you woke back up and kept reading.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I mean, after everything that has happened in the first chapter, between like rape, shit bucket, girl's dead, I was like frantic, like thinking like, is this sexy? Is this supposed to be sexy? I assume this is the romantic part of the story. Is this assault? This is the romantic lead, I assume, right? What am I supposed to be thinking right now? It was a lot real fast.
It is a lot real fast.
Everything about this book is a lot real fast.
Yeah, because it's like 100 and some pages. Even though my notes are really long and detailed, it's only like 100 pages.
We're going to somehow talk about this for over an hour. We are. I know it.
We will. Mm-hmm. There's a lot to say. So Georgie wakes up from the weirdest wet dream of her life, where she was abducted by aliens, and now a weirdly tongued, like, it's a weird tongue with nubs on it that's eating her out. Except it's not a dream, and it's actually a horned blue monster man who's going to town on her. A description of this alien, as my computer freezes: he has 2 ram-like horns on his head, a lion-like mane, grayish blue skin that feels like suede, rugged face with heavy brow and ridges and nubs going down his forehead and nose. The next few descriptions are from different parts of the book, but I'm just going to add them all here now so we get a better idea what he looks like. So along with his weird tongue that has nubs, he also has fangs. He's also 7 feet tall, so no matter how tall the human women are, we're in a size kink territory. He has a tail, and his hand has 4 fingers instead of 5. The ridges and nubs on his face continue all over his body. Heavy sarcasm. I wonder if there are any ridges on some fun parts of his body.
I have to admit, it was the skin that is like suede that I was like, yeah, all right. That does sound nice.
Yeah. Also, their bodies are very warm.
Yeah. Yes. The warm suede is fine. Everything else is just like, I don't know what else I expected. Okay, sure.
I can do horns.
Yeah, horns fine. Yeah. The ridges.
I've played a tiefling enough.
I was gonna say this again, not to talk about tieflings again, but this reminds me of like a very tall, like buff tiefling. Anyways, Vectel, this alien, continues to eat her out, and while doing so, discovers a clit. He doesn't know that it's a clit, though, and they never call it that. They call it like a third nipple.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
The least sexy thing to call it.
It's like, don't do this. Stop it.
Even when they learn English, they still call it a third nipple. He seems fascinated by it, but learns that it's pleasurable for Georgie very quickly, and we love a man who can learn on the job. Despite everything, Georgie's enjoying herself because, hey, she could be eaten by him, but instead she's being eaten out by him.
Only 2 options.
I do like her attitude about this, honestly. Like,
I mean, I guess
I enjoy her humor, I suppose.
Yeah. Again, this is... Sorry, continue.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, this is fantasy, so we're not concerned with things like consent or
I know.
anything.
There is that. Like, consent's not really a thing in this world. And also, I guess she's in such a survivalist state of mind that she's just like, I will bear this. And if it's good, I guess I have that before I die.
Plus for me, yeah. That's kind of what her thought process is. So she then orgasms and comes back to her senses when he flips her over. And then she kind of has this thought like, oh, maybe he is going to start raping her. She starts fighting back and kicks her leg out to stop him, but she accidentally breaks her foot against his chest.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And that's the end of part 1. All right. Part 2, our guy, Vectel, is super confused and concerned as to why his mate would attack him. He notices her dead eyes again and realizes that she must not have the quee, and so her senses are effective. She doesn't feel the pull to mate like he does. He tries to explain, but she doesn't understand him and tries to attack him again. He snarls at her to stop and is horrified when she reacts in fear. He has a "who did this to you" moment and then decides he needs to be patient with her, kind of like a baby. They have a Tarzan and Jane moment where he learns her name but says it like Shorshi because, you know, they speak different languages.
They have no G in this language.
Yeah, I guess. Even though they have a K, which like G and K are super close in your mouth, if that makes sense. And then the alien teaches her that his name is Vectal. Again, neither speak each other's languages, so it sounds like garbage to both of them.
You know, when I lived overseas, one day my host dad, we were trying to talk about like famous people in America that he knew. Mm-hmm. And he kept saying the name of this one guy. And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about, man. Mm-hmm. It was coming out as like Zarsebu. And I realized eventually he was talking about George Bush. So that's what I thought of whenever he called her Shorshi.
Wow.
That's really
I love
funny.
that.
Yeah.
There's not that many sounds in French that don't exist in English. Most of them are like, they're not going to cause that many issues because they're just similar enough. But my favorite one is when I was teaching, I'd always tell the students to take out a sheet of paper and they don't have like the sound like for shit. Mm-hmm. So every time I said sheet, when they want to say shit in English, they say sheet. So they always thought I was saying take out a shit of paper, and they giggled every single time.
That's adorable.
Same with the
them.
word beach. That's how they say bitch in English, because again, that sound doesn't exist. So back to Georgie. Oh, no, one last line for Vectal. Apologies. At the end of his POV, he says Talakaqui is a death sentence, and I think they have banishments or they exile people. But doesn't this also imply that they have like the death penalty? Death sentence to me felt like weirdly human.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, because when you say death sentence, that's definitely an English language type of thing when you're talking about the death penalty.
Too,
yeah, a cultural thing. Like, well, we have a death penalty here, and to get the death penalty, you have to be sentenced to death, hence death sentence. So yeah, I get what you mean.
Maybe it exists outside of like the justice system. All right, so Georgie is warming by the fire, and she checks out Vectal more, and she's like, all right, he's kind of hot. He feeds her the worst power bar ever. It's too spicy, and she ends up spitting it out. Brat. Side note, I wish English had better words for differentiating between spicy hot and spicy spices.
I had a hard time with that, too. Like, is this just like, does it taste weird? Or is it literally burning your mouth?
Like, yeah, is it like peppers, you know?
Aromatic, acrid, peppery, pungent, sharp. Astringent.
Yeah, so many other words for spicy.
Yeah, but
she could have used a word other than spicy.
Yeah.
Not to talk about my time in France again, but one time I made buffalo chicken dip for French people, and again, I didn't know that there was two words for spicy in French. There's like spicy as in like it's spiced well, you know? Like you could call curry spicy, but curry is not necessarily like hot spicy all the time. And so I said it was like épicé, which is like just like, again, lots of spices. And they're like, oh, good. And then they took a huge bite of it, and then they were like, and like fanning their mouths. I was like, whoops, sorry. So Vectal and Georgie fall asleep together in a cave, a sort of mix of we need to share body heat to stay warm together trope, and there's only one bed trope. She wakes up feeling well rested and warm, and oh, what's that weird big hard object pressing into her side? I wonder.
Classic.
Vectal gives Georgie a piggyback ride out in the open, and then he goes off to hunt some food for her.
Yeah, it got really like strangely Twilight there. Like
it
like
did.
Jump on my back, spider monkey.
Exactly. I mean, she's not wearing shoes, and it's like a foot of snow. So I mean,
it makes sense. Yeah.
He's worried that if he harvests a
Quee.
Thank you. It had been a while since I said it. He's worried that if he harvests a quee for Georgie, that she'll be too weak to accept it. So he needs to feed her and get her fat, you know, like a pig. He kills some quilled cat, rat / alien and forces Georgie to eat a raw heart, like Game of Thrones style. Gross. But he somehow understands that she wants him to cook it for her later. They communicate mostly through like nods and smiles, which I guess nodding and smiling are universal. Even in the galaxy. Yeah. I thought that there's like different cultures on, I mean, the planet that we are on, Earth, that don't accept nods or like as yes, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there are. There are places, especially around the Mediterranean and the Middle East, where like if you nod your head up, it means no, and if you nod your head down, it means yes. And there are also other people, like directional stuff is different. So like up and down, west, east and west, like they do the opposite. So yeah, there are people, there are all cultures out there that do not do the general, you know, yes, no, etc.
Yeah, that was one of the recurrent thoughts I had in this book, is that I did move into a culture and live in it and learn the language as I lived in it. And I was like, this isn't how this works as I was reading it. Like, even when everybody finally speaks the same language in this book eventually, just because you speak the same language doesn't mean concepts are universal. So, like, when I learned the language that I learned, I had to think a completely different way. Like, I couldn't just tell a story the same way I do in English. I had to think about how they tell stories.
Like, you know, my husband is from an Arabic country, so he's always like, when he's teaching me words, he's just like, ahan, you say ahan for hello, but actually it means people. I'm like, okay.
Hey, all you people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. So anyways, Georgie is weak like a baby, so he tests her like they test the alien children, and he puts her by water to see if she's going to tell that the water is infested by monsters. She, of course, fails, almost gets eaten, and he saves her.
So, wait, they're putting their babies next to water?
Yeah, like young children.
To see if they're like, if they're going to get eaten or not? Like,
yeah, there's
very ancient Greek.
Yeah, like, so what he does is he throws like a berry into the water or like throws a stick in it basically, and then this fish comes up and like eats the stick because it thinks it's, you know, food.
Sure.
And I guess like it's a test to see if they're ready to go out in the world.
Okay.
And if they don't know, like, to throw the stick in and then to throw the berry later.
Okay.
I took it as he suspects that she's not from here and doesn't know how this place works. So he like takes her to the river to kind of like, you don't get it, do you?
I thought he was like a himbo the whole time. So like he still thought that she was just like a deformed blue alien.
He was a total himbo.
Yeah. So this berry that we're talking about, he like throws this berry, which is kind of like their soap, into the water, and it clears out the monsters, the fish monsters for her. And then they both strip and they wash. Our poor girl is still covered and smelling like shit from her attempt to escape the evil aliens, but that doesn't stop her from checking out how Vectol's hanging.
Nor did it stop Vectol from going down on her.
No, that's true.
I wonder if he thought that's just how she smells.
It's like, this is my cross to bear.
This is something we can deal with, I guess. Maybe he was like weirdly turned on by it.
Oh God. Thank God she didn't write that down.
Yep. Thank God. So those ridges that we were talking about before, turns out they appear elsewhere on his body. Ribs for her pleasure? Yes. And he comes equipped with like a rabbit attachment for clitoral stimulation.
I'll talk about that later. I'm not going to get into it now. I can't. I'm not mentally prepared.
Yeah. So his dick has like a small blunted tusk or bone right above it. Convenient. Vectol helps her use the berries to wash herself, but is respectful in his touching the whole time. Chivalry isn't dead, ladies. It's just on, not Hoth. As they wash, Georgie realizes that Vectol is her only way to save the trafficked girls. But however, will she convince him to help her? Maybe a little smooching will convince him. But aliens, they don't actually know how to kiss. So Georgie has to teach him like a good stepmom teaches her stepson.
Gross. Why'd you say it like that?
I have to say, when I first read this, and I was like, what the fuck?
To me or the book?
No, to you. Because then I walked away from it for a couple days. Like, I literally read that and I'm like, I can't. And then I walked away. Yeah, I went back to my painting chair. and then I came back and I was like, okay, I'll write my notes in this. And then I didn't see it for some reason. And I was like, okay, I guess that was just a figment of my imagination. And then I saw Tabitha write something here, like pointing it out. And I was like, God damn it, it happened. It wasn't a weird dream.
She says, after he learns how to kiss and he's into it, she says, if you want more smooches, you got to get straight A's. I mean, you got to take me up the mountain.
Gross.
Okay, here's the other thing I like about Georgie. I do like that she's like trading sex to get what she wants.
Yeah.
For some reason, I'm just like, go Georgie. You know that this is what this man wants. And if you're into it and you've already orgasmed, you're like, I'm going to die anyway.
Yep.
I've got to, and I'm not on Earth. I'm obviously not on Earth. So we might as well just do whatever it is that this alien's going to do. Where I need to survive. Yeah. Like, good for you.
He cups her nethers and agrees. Pussy for the mountain. She grips his cock and agrees, and they will be submitting together, literally and figuratively. I mean, besides the non-consensual oral from earlier, like, he's been pretty sweet. Again, like, very himbo-coded. So she wouldn't mind putting out to save the other girls. She also agrees he's nice. So she convinces him to take her up the mountain to the other girls. He stops in a cave to warm her shivering body, and she's like, no, I can do this myself. And so she decides that her hypothermia isn't that big of a deal, and she's just going to go to the girls on her own. Vectol miraculously learns the word no, but Georgie ignores him and falls into an ice cave with a bunch of monsters. End of part 2. We're like halfway through at this point. Part 3. So in continuing to borrow from Star Wars lore, the cave is filled with these like white Wookiees. I just paused to make sure I didn't somehow say that wrong.
You said Wookiees correctly.
You said Wookiees correct.
Only partially a fake fan. So Vectel jumps in to save our damsel in distress, and he kills some of the Yetis and then runs off with her over his shoulder like King Kong and that one lady. Poor Georgie has really been through it and starts crying. And I like to say that I'm not a crier, but I feel like I would have cried like 5 times by now.
I would have been too mad to cry.
I would have been crying throughout. Like,
I mean, you have a dedicated fainting chair.
I do. Actually, this is way too much for me. Like, oh my God, no, you have those thought experiments sometimes where like, what would happen if the world ended or like it was a zombie apocalypse?
I would kill myself.
I am totally that person who'd prefer to be dead.
Yeah, I don't want to struggle.
And here I am like in this like survival situation with Georgie, and I'm like, Georgie, just think about this for a second. You're never getting home. You're on Not Hoth. It's very deeply winter.
Yeah.
Do you want to live with this the rest of your life? Because if the answer is I hate winter, I would be jumping off a cliff.
Yeah. Just succumb to hypothermia.
Yeah,
or something.
just let it happen. Hypothermia is apparently a nice way to die.
No, but our girl Georgie is a fighter. So our big blue guy is now realizing that, hey, maybe Georgie isn't from here, and she's dumber than one of the blue alien babies. He then vows because of this he's going to keep her safe because she's weak, helpless, frail baby. Georgie is smart, though, and starts to try to learn the language. She points to something. He tells her what it is. Fire, fur, then horns. Then she starts getting a little handsy. But the chivalrous blue alien pushes her hands away just when she was starting to get into it, too. Damn. So his damn good guy act is turning her on, so she puts on her A game. Note there's very obvious foreshadowing of, I guess I don't need to ask about birth control, do I? And as always, I say, the second you are not trying to get pregnant, you're going to get pregnant. So
Oh, for
wrap
sure.
it before you tackle people.
Yeah.
You know.
But then she's, you have a note here that was just like, you're raw dogging it a week after your period. What do you think's going to happen? And I'm just like, but, she did live in Florida, and sex ed in Florida can't be that great. So, like, maybe this tracks. I mean, she doesn't understand how you get pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get that he's an alien, but he is a humanoid with, like, complementary equipment.
Yeah.
So I don't know why you jump to, for sure, I will never get pregnant from this. Like, maybe wait it out until you can at least speak the same language.
Yeah, But no, back to hanky-panky time. Georgie teaches Vectel how to kiss again, but this time with tongue. Ooh. So they're full making out now. He learns the word kiss, but wants to learn even more. Words, that is, not, sexual moves. So they are touching each other, and he starts kissing more places. The ribbed tongue, purring, and horns are starting to come in handy. After eating her out, again, they finally have sex. Remember that little knob above his dick? It's perfectly placed like Georgie's rapid vibrator.
So, I mean, I guess... Here's where I'm like, I don't know if I find this sexy in practice, since it's like you're just getting randomly poked in the clit.
Exactly. It's not like it's actually vibrating.
I know. I did have the thought that maybe because like the quee vibrates, maybe it just
made his dick vibrate.
Yeah,
okay,
I don't know.
That would be fine.
That would be fine, but she didn't say that.
I know, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I'm helping Ruby Dixon out, okay? So she comes again and again until Vectel finally comes too. Then she's like, oh, I guess we should go,
Yeah, get these girls.
Get these
like,
girls.
Come on.
Sorry. Just getting my head out of my dick or whatever. So our guy cannot wait for Georgie to be barefoot and pregnant. She may be some weird, strange alien, but she got that gorilla grip on his dick. Again, the weird like Mormon vibe here, like I think it's worse than maybe Omegaverse fics, where like I feel like the end goal of Omegaverse fics usually is for people to be pregnant, but I don't know.
No, I only read gay ones, and that's not the case.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes it's the case, but not often.
All right, well, I do feel like this is very like one man, one child type thing, more so than the Omegaverse is.
So it is for sure a breeding kink.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like a Mormon vibe or not, but it's definitely a breeding kink, and I get how there's like reason to want to get her pregnant quickly for the sake of the tribe, I suppose. But because
and like the quee.
Yeah, for the quee's like, hey, you gotta do this. We have to mate to make more babies, and then the tribe apparently doesn't have enough women, so it's just like we gotta repopulate, otherwise the tribe is doomed. But also realistically, this whole series is very obsessed with being like getting women pregnant. Yeah. And as someone who's been pregnant, it is not sexy. It's not a sexy experience. Okay. And this aspect of the story is a huge downer for me. I'm just like, oh God, why do we have to go get pregnant?
Yeah, this is the kind of hetero shit that I cannot do. A breeding kink with actual breeding that results in an actual baby. Finding out we aren't going to be having cool alien adventures, but I'm going to be a trad wife. Absolutely loathsome.
Yeah, basically all the books, at least the ones that I've read, have ended like this.
Oh yeah, the second one ends with Liz pregnant. So yeah,
that's what I mean.
Yeah,
They're all barefoot and pregnant by
they're
then.
like they're pregnant.
She
by
literally,
the end of each
Georgie
one.
literally says in this book, like, "You're just trying to get me barefoot and pregnant," and Bechtel's like, "What do you mean, girl?" Like he doesn't understand that cultural event.
Like why would he? It's like
term.
Women get pregnant. That's what they do.
Oh man. So to end this part, in the morning when they wake up, Bechtel is out checking his traps and he discovers a frozen 5-toed foot in the snow. His Georgie isn't here alone. Dun dun dun. So part 4, Bechtel runs back and drags Georgie to the frozen body. It's Dominique's frozen body, and she was the one that was gang raped by the basketball aliens. Georgie starts panicking and feeling guilty that she's been literally fucking around with an alien while her fellow survivors suffer.
Yeah, I have to say it's a choice to kill off the girl that got gang raped.
Yeah, it is.
I saw that and I was like, naturally, of course.
And she's French.
Yeah. Dominique was gang raped and then died because she ran out into the
Maybe
snow.
this was written like... Never mind, it was written in 2015. I was going to say, maybe it was written like post 9/11 when we really hated the French for not going to war with us.
No more French
Freedom
fries.
So anyways, they keep making their way up the mountain and they find the pod and all the girls are alive.
Yay.
I guess. So the girls are wary of Bechtel, who's a huge blue alien, and he's also wary of them. Georgie tries to grab for the dead animals Bechtel killed to feed the girls, but he gets confused and starts asking her questions. Of course, Georgie doesn't understand, but Kira with her translator AirPod does. He just asked if you want to mate here. So your secret's out, girly. Everyone knows you've been fucking. Bechtel tells Kira to keep his mate safe while he gets wood, and now all the girls are going to be fed and watered once Georgie spills all the tea about that alien dick.
I like how you said fed and watered like they're livestock.
Might as well be.
Yeah. I mean, he's trying to get them, like, he talks about how he needs to get Georgie, like, plumper so she, can take the queen and also his penis. So Bechtel barely registers that these 5 women have been kidnapped and trafficked because he's too busy trying to play matchmaker for the 20 single alien men that are in his tribe.
Yeah, priorities, Bechtel. Like, really, come down.
Yeah, this whole story really just speeds past all the trauma these women endured.
Yeah. It's like trauma? No time for that.
We're in a fantasy world.
It's
There's
like,
no trauma
we got to get you pregnant as soon as humanly possible.
As soon as possible, yeah. Bechtel, like, I didn't describe this much in the notes, but in his tribe, as Maura alluded to earlier, there's not a lot of women aliens, so he's like super pumped that there's women here because they got to keep the population going.
Yeah.
Exactly. Again, livestock. So he's worried though that none of them have a queen. Not only are they parasite free, but these humans are weak, need to be fed and watered. He returns before sundown. They ask for medicine for one of the girls, and Bechtel says that it's the Kui sickness. No one knows what this means, though, besides that the Kui lives in his chest. Liz and Georgie talk about what happened with Dominique. She basically ran away after the white Wookiees tried to break into the pod, and we all know how that ended for her. She's now dead. Bechtel decides to keep watch for the humans, but not before he tries to get a little sugar from his mate. In the morning, they discuss how to get out of the pod and to his tribe. Bechtel says he'll get his tribe's people and then come back. He's the chief because of fucking course he is.
Was there any other option?
No.
Oh yeah, that's how you know he's the alpha, not one of the betas.
Yeah. Again, weirdly Omegaverse vibes here. On their way to the tribe, they stop at the Elder Cave to fuck and to rest. Turns out that this Elder Cave is actually a spaceship. Part 5. Somehow Georgie is questioning if she even wants to go home. Bechtel must have like a god dick for her to even consider this.
Yeah, like even if he did have a god dick, would you stay?
No, probably not.
Yeah, like my answer is no. Like we need to get on the spaceship, figure out how it works, and get the fuck home. Yeah. Like we now are in a spaceship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which you possibly works. Yeah, but
I'm pretty down with space travel. Like I'm a big science fiction fan. But I would want to go home after that fucked up abduction. Like, yes. I don't want to learn a bunch of new shit. I just want to go. Also, it's a planet made of ice, so it's not even like hospitable.
No.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to go home.
Yeah. I just want to be in my bed and rot.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
So the spaceship works, as I said, it boots up and then it speaks English along with 20,000 Yeah, 20,000 common languages.
So
doesn't seem like that many to me, but
I mean, there's already like about 7,000 languages on Earth. So what does common mean?
Who cares?
Also, if it has English, it's been to Earth. So boot up that sucker and go home.
I know they I think later on in the book they talk about how it's broken, because the reason why the spaceship is here is Vectel's people like rode this as a pleasure ship to a different planet, but something malfunctioned and they got stranded on this planet, and now that they're like the third generation of aliens to live there or something.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's probably broken. I accept that, but also it has a supercomputer that's still working. So I was like, why are you guys living in the Stone Age if you have a supercomputer that still works?
Because they're the third generation, which really isn't that many generations apart.
But this could literally like beam languages into your head. Yeah. So if that's the case, like beam more information into your head.
Yeah, something.
This is a relatively common trope in sci-fi, that the ship crashes and or breaks down and the people are stuck there. They either can fix it themselves, call for help, or adapt and live on the planet, which is what happened in this case. It's also pretty common for the ship's computer to still be working in these cases, because you need someone to give you exposition about why the spaceship's there. But it is weird to me that it was just a few generations that they forgot where they came from. Like, these people seem to think they're native to the planet.
Since they have a supercomputer that would probably tell them if they asked.
Like, you could at least keep like cultural knowledge if you have a computer, but I guess not.
No, the only cultural knowledge that
like who was the first person who was like, actually, you know what, fuck this, and just walked away from the spaceship into the snow,
and decided to just leave it, live in a cave.
And never tell any of their children about it.
Big secret. So the spaceship continues to give exposition, and as I said, Georgie learns that Vectel is a GMO alien because he was made for this ice planet. The ship is a pleasure cruiser from Vectel's original planet, and it crash landed on this planet almost 300 years ago.
I can totally see him just off to the side, just shrugging, like, I didn't know any of this.
Well, it's no, he doesn't know, because it's all in English, so he doesn't learn it all.
I'm really curious as to why there were fewer women than men on this pleasure cruiser. Did like fewer survive? Was it like some kind of gay cruise?
Maybe they're going to like the Las Vegas of planets.
Yeah.
Or like the red district of planets.
Yeah.
Who knows? So many of the original alien passengers died because they didn't have a symbiote, which is the Qui. This Qui saves the aliens from the toxin in the air that's on this planet. It's the same toxin that will kill the humans if they don't get a Qui too. The spaceship tells her this, and she has less than a week to live. Then the spaceship uploads Vectel's language to her brain, and she collapses, which I've never been to the eye doctor, like, officially. I just get my sorry. This has a point, I promise.
You are a fully grown adult. Why haven't you been to the eye doctor?
I have perfect vision. The last time I got my eyes checked was, like, in grade school. Yeah, but, like, it's fine. So anyways, when you go there and they check your eyes and they, like, do the puff of, you know? Mm-hmm. That's how I picture the language gets uploaded, because it gets like shot into their eye like a lobotomy.
Okay.
But it's not a needle, so
just like a little poof of air.
That's what I mean. But she passes out from this. So homegirl wakes up in her lover's arms, and now they're speaking the same language.
Thank fucking God. Finally. It was so frustrating.
Now when Vectel calls her weak, she'll understand it.
No, good for her.
So now that they can finally talk, she explains that she's not from here, and if she can, she'll go home. Glad she's come to her senses. They get to the tribe's caves and meet Rahash.
I think it was Rahash.
Okay, they meet Rahash. While Vectel talks to him, Georgie absentmindedly plays with his tail, and he tells her to wait till they're in private. So apparently, like the wings from Akatar, the tail is an erogenous zone. Rahash also isn't weirded out that Georgie is an alien because she's Vectel mates. Like, these people are just like really cool with a lot of things. Really,
they are. Like, so long as there's a mate thing in here, we're totally okay with it. It's like, you have sex with whatever it is you want to have sex with.
Yeah. Rahash gets a little too giddy when he learns that there are 5 more unmated humans. He wants to like go be a big strong man and save them, but he's like a little too excited about. Georgie is a little weirded out by Vectel trying to play matchmaker with all of them, which
as well she should
be. She should be.
Absolutely.
That's weird.
So,
like, the story is essentially about them being saved from human trafficking by being trafficked.
Yeah, kind of. But they like this other version of trafficking.
I just had, like, one of those ideas that I just now had, which is it's all about the Qui, right? The thing that the Quis are attracted to each other, essentially, right? So it's like, but they find the Qui through this beast character that has, like, dozens or whatever that live in its heart. But
Yeah.
then literally everything on the planet would have to have a queen to survive, which suggests to me then that isn't bestiality a thing then in this universe?
Maybe.
Yeah, it would have to be, right?
Yeah.
Because the
I think that's one of those don't think too hard about it things.
I suddenly started
But
thinking
it
too hard.
it would only be bestiality with the animals that have the queen, because it's only the like big one that we're going to talk about later that has a queen. It's not
Oh, not the little things, the
like the
porcupine
fish.
things.
Well,
Those
yeah.
don't have a queen.
Then
Maybe
how do they survive?
well, maybe it's just complicated in that like other animals are adapted to living on the planet, but this
Yeah.
one creature has this queen.
Mm-hmm.
But people who crash land on the planet
Oh,
have
maybe.
discovered like that is the one thing they can do for survival.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
I think the spaceship.
Like maybe
probably
they just
told
like
them.
caught one of these things, cut it open, and ate it, and they're like, "Oh shit, I feel better now."
yeah, maybe
Yeah, without like cooking the meat, you know.
that would have to. Yeah, because I don't cook anything.
Maybe the warm-blooded animals need the queen and the cold-blooded animals don't.
Yeah.
Even though the porcupine technically would be warm-blooded.
Once again, I
We're
think we are
thinking way
thinking.
too
We're
hard.
making this too
I
hard.
think we are thinking harder about this than the author
Yeah.
did.
Oh, for sure.
Oh,
For sure. I'm
Absolutely, we are.
I've dove too far into the world building. I need to back up.
Yep. So since they're at these caves, they talk about it. It's basically this huge cave with a hole in the middle of it, like under a mountain kind of, and it's like the caves surround this huge hot spring, so it smells like rotten eggs.
Yeah, I can imagine. It sounds great.
It does. And luckily for the humans, all the men are hot. Woohoo!
Yay.
Of course they are. And besides one snot-nosed kid calling Georgie ugly, everyone just accepts her as Vectel's mate. Okay, so in the book, I don't think I talked about this, but Georgie has curly hair, and she keeps describing her hair as like super messy, so it's like a huge frizzy mess, I'm sure. But in the story, Vectel keeps brushing his hands through her hair. And maybe Ruby Dixon, I didn't look up what she looks like, has straight hair. But every time I read a story where a character has curly hair and the love interest brushes their hair through it, like your hand's gonna get caught.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It just pulls me right out.
Even if she has stick straight hair as you can get, at this point it would be a matted, tangled mess.
Yeah.
So there's no way anyone's pulling a hand through that. It's gonna get caught no matter what.
Or who knows? Maybe all the humans in the pod are like grooming each other like little monkeys. You know?
I mean, he can like pet the top of her head, but yeah, don't put your fingers in my
Oh,
hair.
you should
Yeah,
totally
no.
just pat the top of her head, like, oh, little
Like,
baby girl.
little baby. So while they're in the caves, one of the female aliens,
Maylock.
I don't even remember.
Okay.
Maylock.
Maylock, okay. One of the female aliens, Maylock, has a special Quee that can talk to the other Quee and help them to heal faster. But she can't help Georgie because she has no Quee. Maylock also explains how the aliens get the Quee and how the Quee then resonates with other people who have the Quee and they become mates. Oh, by the way, she's Vectel's past lover. But Georgie doesn't feel jealous because she pictures poor Vectel being dumped and then left high and dry by Malik when she resonated for another alien. Sad.
It's
Poor
cool though
Vectel.
that she's not like mad at.
I
Malik
know.
for
I was like a
existing.
little.
I was like,
impressed.
thank God, we're not gonna have a weird jealousy through line
Yeah,
here.
thank goodness. We don't need anything else. So while Malik is chatting with Vectel's ex, our big blue guy is off telling the other alien dudes about how humans have this third nipple, aka a clit. Then they get back together and they do it doggy style. Vectel explains that he resonated for her because the Quee can sense that she can get pregnant. So similar to, perfect mates in Omegaverse. The resonating is tied to the survival of the species.
So when I read the second book, I don't want to get too far down to this, but it's like it only resonates at certain times.
Yeah.
Because it's like she can get pregnant right now, therefore we are resonating,
Mhm.
and then it
Gross.
will stop resonating
Yeah.
when they can't get pregnant.
Like ovulating.
Yeah, it's like an ovulation detector.
Mhm.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Georgie then realizes that because he's been resonating for her, oh my God, that means she can get pregnant. And then she's like doing the math and she hasn't had her period for a few weeks. And since she's never been late in her life, it must mean that she's pregnant. And also, and it's obviously not the fact that her body is malnourished and stressed, so her period is wacky. It's because she's pregnant. This feels-
I once got my period 2 weeks early, and it was because of the stress in 2016 of Trump getting elected.
It was a wild time.
Yeah, but Georgie's body's not like yours. Georgie's body is so normal that being like severely malnourished and like abducted doesn't affect her at all. So because she's late, it means she's pregnant.
She's constantly regular.
Yeah, and it feels like a little coach car from Mean Girls. Like, don't have sex because you will get pregnant and die.
Don't have sex in the missionary.
Don't have sex standing up. Just don't do it. Okay, promise? Okay, now everybody take some rubbers.
Yep.
All right, last part. Now that Georgie has realized that her period's late, her and Vectel act as if she's like 7 months pregnant and not like she has like a zygote in her. They and some of the single alien men go to rescue the women. They stop at the Elder Cave spaceship to, rest and also to get English lobotomized into their blue brains. They reach the stranded women. There's so much stomach touching already. Like, it's fucking ridiculous. Like, Vectel is just up there rubbing her flat ass stomach, being like, oh, there's a full baby in here. I hate it.
Can you imagine what they think like it looks like right now? Like, this is like a Stone Age society now. It's just like, do you think it's like they think that's a tiny little person?
Not like the little worm that is actually. Well, it's probably. Well, I think like a week has passed. So it's just a clump of cells, right?
Yeah.
It's not even like a little worm.
It's like basically 8 cells and it's a zygote. Mm-hmm. It's so little. Mm-hmm. It's an embryo, basically. Yeah.
So bad.
But like I said, this is alien, so maybe it's a tiny little man walking around there.
A fully formed human. Mm-hmm. Some of the covers for the books have like they're holding like a baby, and it's literally just a baby that's been photoshopped blue. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's amazing. So they reach the women. They're super sick and smelly. A few of the aliens start resonating for the women, so Georgie calls a meeting, and then she explains everything.
I'm starting to think this whole resonating thing is a con. Oh, baby, it's only ever vibrated for you. Please let me get you pregnant.
She tells them that they have a chance to go home or they can stay, but if they do, they have to eat this parasite. They might also, if they stay, end up resonating for one of the aliens. Georgie lets it slip that she's pregnant, and my favorite line from Liz happens, which is, a Great Dane can still make a Chihuahua pregnant. Guess which one you are? It's just so stupid that they would think that because they're both bipedal creatures with vaguely similar features, that she could get pregnant. Like,
dogs are the same species. Like, just because dogs look different doesn't mean they're not like exactly the same thing.
Yes, thank you. That's my point.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like, you can make a mule out of a horse and a donkey because they're of the same, like, genetic makeup.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That thing, the mule's not going to make kids because they're too far apart to actually, have a genetic line. So this is, so like...
Did you not know that mules are sterile?
No, I did know that. I just had this thought.
Alarmed me.
No, my guess is because what if in this book that the babies that they create can't reproduce because they're like mules?
That would absolutely make sense.
Again,
actually.
we're overthinking.
Yeah.
I just thought it was crazy a little bit. I mean, it is my like favorite line because it's just so a little ridiculous. But Liz like just has met these aliens and she's like, oh, duh, you guys can get pregnant. Like, he has a dick and you have a vagina, so that means yes, you can get pregnant, even though that's not really how it works on Earth. Also, Georgie's possibly in love with Vectel, so she's gonna stay. And like, girl, you're barely out of the time frame that Plan B could be effective. Like, just go home, abort that baby, and then you can move on with your life. Plus, like, this was written when Roe v. Wade was still a thing. So, like, again, she could easily could have had a little pill and just find a new man. Yeah. No way that this man who you've known for a week is better than all of the other men on Earth. Like, I'm not trying to all men, men of Earth, but, like, oh, my God. Like, I mean, I've been on the dating apps. I know there's a lot of losers out there, but I'm not sure if I would just choose to consume a parasite just to, get some good. You know what I mean?
I think, like, when I think about this world... I know.
To live without it?
To live without the internet, to live without modern comforts. Like, this is the thing that I keep going back to with this book is, like, you would have to give all that up. And I think, like, how boring must your life be when you're not ovulating?
Well, actually, you're going to immediately get pregnant, and then the rest of your life
is having babies.
And then raising those babies.
And then raising them. Like, so, like, motherhood is already really hard with the modern comforts. Imagine when I don't have any of that.
Yeah.
And you're just like, well, I've got my cave. I have my fur bed.
I have use cloth diapers.
Yeah, you have cloth diapers. How do you clean this up? How are you cleaning up after this infant?
Yeah. Maybe they just let the babies freeball it.
How do you even give birth to these babies in this environment?
What if something goes wrong?
Yeah, I mean, I've already said that you're the Chihuahua to the blue aliens, Great Danes. Like, so now you've put yourself in a Stone Age planet where it's winter constantly, and you're going to give birth to this massive freaking baby with no epidurals in sight.
Nope.
Yeah, imagine. I
mean, I would just die.
Thought that there would be more talking about the spaceship. I feel like it's kind of glossed over. Like, at the very least, to be like, oh, well, it's structural damage that was done, and we're basically in the Neolithic age here, so we're stuck until we figure out how to mine and smelt metals. But no, like for all we know, the ship might be fully functional, just a little dusty.
Right, we don't. And like,
Yeah,
what is
no.
the choice really? She keeps saying you have a choice. I'm like, do you though? Because you just said like you're not getting off the planet via the ship for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And like, so your choice is that we wait for these other aliens who are going to traffic you to show up
Who
and
knows
do
where.
whatever it is that they're going to do. We've already realized that they're bad. Or we stay here with these dudes and live in winter forever. Like, is that really a choice?
And this is also like when they landed, this is like the nice winter. This is not even like bad winter.
Right. Yeah. It's winter all the time. It's just a little less winter occasionally.
Yeah, it's only 1 foot of snow right now, not 4. So the girls agree to stay on Nanhath with the blue aliens. And I mean, insane choice, but we'll move on, I guess. So Georgie tells Vectel that the girls are going to stay, but there are 6 more girls who've been asleep this whole time, and once they wake them up, they'll have to decide if they want to stay as well. Vectel is ecstatic that there are more breeders, women, for the aliens to meet, and he thanks the pussy gods.
As one would.
Mm-hmm. Uh-oh, the mean aliens are coming back. So they wake up the sleeping girls, and they are all crybabies, according to Georgie, and I just, like, hate this take. She literally says, as they're walking away from the pod, the new girls are weeping and confused. They want more furs than we have to go around. They want better shoes. They're hungry, cold, and tired. Maybe it's exhaustion, but I'm frustrated with them because we're doing the best that we can, and they just keep crying. I know this is new and scary for them, but I find myself wishing they'd catch up and get with the program.
Yeah, I hated Georgie here too. Like, maybe show some compassion for the people who wake up in a never-ending nightmare that you literally just woke up.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, just maybe, come to terms with the fact that this situation sucks. It sucks for you and it sucks for them.
Yeah,
just
they had, like, some time to get used to it.
Yeah. Like, how would you feel if you just woke up and just discovered this? I don't know. Like I just
like,
said, I would be crying this entire time.
The blue aliens hunt down a Sakotsk. No way you remember how to say that, do you?
It was like Sakosk, something like that.
I don't know. My
know.
least favorite sound in English is the SK sound. Like tasks. Why do we do that? Stop it. So they're hunting down this huge alien beast that carries multiple quees in them. And the beast has 4 eyes, long twiggy legs, making it taller than trees, and gray shaggy fur with tusks. So basically, if you asked a toddler to draw a woolly mammoth.
Yeah, that's a perfect example.
Yeah. The animal is killed, and the women must take the quee immediately, or else the parasites will die. To do this, they make a cut near their collarbone and then let the quee, which are like described as gossamer worms, slither into the cut and burrow into them. The girls pass out after letting a worm crawl into them, which fair. When the girls wake up, they are now running several degrees hotter, their eyes glow, and they won't be slowly poisoned by the planet thanks to these worms.
It kind of reminded me of when Duke Leto II rolls around in the worm bin, with the sand trout. Anyone get that reference?
What book is that from?
It's one of the Dune books.
Oh, no.
It's fine. He wants this. People are definitely going to disagree with me on my interpretation of this, but he basically rolls around in the worm bin to get some of the powers of the sandworms.
Oh. I barely.
He ends up looking like a worm man. It's a whole thing.
I don't know anything about Dune the book. I
just know
it's very worm based.
Got it.
Yeah, no, yeah. I got that much from picking up from the movie.
Their eyes glow blue.
Yeah, I thought of that too.
I mean, they have quees as well.
you get the blue eyes from consuming too much spice.
Well, you get the blue eyes here, the glowing blue eyes from consuming a quee. Maybe they're from the same strand of something. Moving on. Georgie's quee then starts resonating or purring for Vectel, which, if she's already pregnant, I don't really understand why it's still resonating. Yeah, but we'll move on. She also learns that Rahash has kidnapped Liz, who is now his mate. But don't worry, babe, because Vectel thinks that he's a good hunter and he'll be punished by the tribe when he returns. So basically, like, Liz won't get hurt. Just, they're gonna bone a lot. Georgie jokes that they won't be back till Liz is barefoot and pregnant, a joke that Vectel doesn't get. And then while everyone else is out, like, talking and chatting, they go into the woods and then they do a doggy style.
Yeah, like you would.
And guess what? That's the end.
Of the first book. There's like 20 more.
Book.
Oh my God, I love how she's just like so cavalier. Oh yeah, he just kidnapped Liz. It's fine. Let's go have sex.
Yep. The second book is about Liz.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
All right, so Emma, what did you think?
Okay, like, I remember it being not great, but I don't remember it being quite this bad. In my defense, I read it in lockdown, and we were, like, all a little crazy. I was definitely a lot of crazy, so.
You do crazy things when you're crazy.
Yeah,
imagine.
Read 4 out of 20 of these books. The fact that Georgie is like immediately pregnant after having sex feels very like 6th grade abstinence only sex education here. I mean, Maura made the good point that she's from Florida, so that checks out. But like, if you're looking to read a very easy story that then is rewritten 20 other times, like, please feel free to read the rest of these. Like, they're nice and simple.
Yeah, they're nice and simple.
Like a lot of sex.
Oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I read the second one for the podcast, and we thought we'd do the first 2 in then one episode, and we discovered that would be too much.
Too much.
And now that we're not doing that, I'm not exactly regretful over reading the second book, but I'm certainly not continuing. It's not really escapist for me. It's more anxiety inducing, and I keep thinking about these pregnant women being forced to carry giant alien babies and feeling totally grossed out about it. Like, and I can't stop thinking about, this is an ice planet. God, can you imagine the living and never-ending winter? Like, humans would hate that shit.
Yeah, but they like love dealing like treating leather and like learning how to sew. Like
Do
in the
they?
later books, they like
Do they
talk
love
about
it?
Well, no, I will say a couple of the women, I didn't read their books, but a couple of the women are like, "Fuck this shit." Like,
Yeah,
why did I
you would
say
have to.
yes to this?
Listen, I knew a dude who, back when I was living in the South, who was gifted an elk carcass. I don't know, from his brother. I don't
okay.
even know how this happened. But
Yeah.
anyway, he had this elk, and he said to himself, I'm going to learn how to tan hide. And he tried to do that. He like set it up in the driveway.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had like this rotting elk carcass in the driveway for a while.
Barf.
And then he did it wrong, obviously. So then one of the dogs ate it.
You know, I grew up in
Sorry,
a
my
rural.
face is disgusted. If you
So this is what I'm thinking when I'm thinking of this.
I grew up in a rural area, and nothing about that story is unusual to me.
Yeah, it's exactly what you would think.
I have known multiple people who have done that.
no, I don't know.
I knew somebody
anyone.
who like learned how to dissect animals that way, and now is a veterinarian.
Yeah,
shit.
as you would.
I grew up in like the straight suburbs, so no one was like tan and hide at where I lived.
Yeah, this is what you get for living in the mountains out in the middle of nowhere.
Tabitha, thoughts, feelings about this book?
It's definitely not escapist to me. The rape in the first chapter immediately set the stakes so high that I could never really relax.
Yeah.
Like, I kept wondering if that was going to be a thing that happened again. I feel like there's a lot of pushing us to believe that the blue aliens are all good people, so it's the best option for the women to stay and get mated. But it's like maybe 2 steps away from coercion.
I agree.
These guys are immediately on board with like, yay, we can use them to repopulate our species. And the women are like, I guess this is our best option. And so now they're going to be giving birth and trying to keep babies alive on an ice planet while trying to live in a cave among a civilization that seems to have only advanced to stone tools. It's a genuine nightmare.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah,
Yeah, can you imagine like
pass.
the iPhone addiction fallout that
my
they would have?
God.
I would just be dying
Oh
at a
my
certain
god,
point.
I would. I do this with my cousins all the time, and at family events we just like quote vines to each other. That's exactly what I would do the rest of the time.
I mean, like,
Hurricane tortilla,
maybe,
hurricane tortilla.
I mean, maybe this
That would
is,
just be me nonstop.
I'd say this is a hot take, but this is kind of the point of our podcast. I do. Okay, so I can see how the aliens are attractive. I'll be real.
Yeah,
Sure.
Like blue skin,
ribbed
horns,
for her
tails,
pleasure. They are
Suede
made.
skin.
suede
like,
skin,
yeah.
and that they're like warm.
Yeah.
Like that's nice.
Oh, you do.
Still not worth staying on this planet.
No, none of that is worth it.
He could be the nicest guy. He could be the perfect guy for me. I'd be like, pass.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, you don't have indoor heating. I see how it is.
Swipe
Also-
left.
Also,
Immediately.
you don't have mattresses in this universe.
Swipe left.
Absolutely not. It's like, oh, okay, so I have to live in a cave forever
And
Yeah.
sleep on like a couple furs. It's not
And-
even like they have hay or anything.
and be used as a broodmare.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool,
No.
awesome.
No.
Yeah, exactly what I want for my life.
No.
All right. So,
are
which
we?
character are we? Emma, who do you think you are?
I mean, I know this bit is really fun, but like, who do you even pick without, like, everyone? I mean, all right, I'm just gonna say I feel like Georgie. I feel like I would absolutely fall for the first guy who was nice to me, and then just like, I know I said I wouldn't, but I would just uproot my life.
Well, you're honest, and I respect that.
Yeah. Maura?
I am one of those girls in the tubes who comes out and immediately bursts into tears. Like, Georgie would probably slap me.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Tabitha?
I would say that I'm probably Kira, the woman who got the translator AirPod put in. I don't know. I just really empathize with her. Not only was she abducted like everyone else and having to deal with that same trauma, but she basically had a job at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, I get that.
Yeah, I
It
can
seems
see
like
that.
a little crazy that she didn't
like you're
no
all
one else got a translator.
Yeah,
you're
why
all
does
in
she
a, like
get
a bad situation, and like everyone else is being so chaotic that you're just like, all right, I guess this falls to me.
Also, I know I called it an AirPod, but it basically gets like in one of the pictures, it's like drawn like a little like conch shell in her ear, but it's like stapled in, kind
Yeah.
of like the cow tags.
It
you
was
know?
surgically put in. I remember
Yeah.
that. Yeah. And then I always go back to like, why did they do that to her?
Just
But-
a one person.
Yeah,
they
just the one.
said that because they don't actually care about them being able
No.
to communicate
Yeah.
because they're going to sell them,
Right.
but they were having a hard time the aliens were having a hard time giving commands to the girls and telling
Yeah.
them to do stuff.
Oh, okay.
So they just like jammed it in one girl so she could tell the other girls.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
basically, they said "shut up" was her
Yeah.
job. So that's Ice Planet Barbarians.
All right. Yeah. So here we are. This
Yes,
is
that was certainly a book.
Yeah,
Like I said, the book that made us discuss what our personal trigger warning should be.
So with that, subscribe to the podcast, Recapping Romantasy, and follow us on TikTok, recap.romantasy.
Yeah, we also have an Instagram page now.
Same,
Imagine.
recap.romantasy.
Yeah.
Perfect.
No, it's recapping Romantasy. Sorry,
Oh, okay.
we didn't do that.
TikTok has a character limit, so
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. No, it'll all be linked. Just
Yeah.
go down there and take a look at the links.
Take a look.
Thank
Yeah.
you for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.